We're going to head back to London, where the French President Emmanuel Macron is speaking.
Clear-minded views of events. On the same day, on the 18th of June 1940, Churchill and de Gaulle set out the words of appeal and resistance. The French army had been defeated in only 6 weeks by the German Wehrmacht. Everybody was stunned. There was a spirit of resignation, but yet a thirst for liberty, for freedom and honor, and a powerful drive towards resistance struck French hearts, and it was embodied by the call from General de Gaulle, who had just been promoted general, entered the government. He rejected defeat, and he urged that the fight continue. And he became a persona non grata in the newly formed Pétain government. He had to find a land of exile, a safe haven, and it was London. And hope was embodied by the last remaining European country able to continue the war. Winston Churchill personified the spirit of fighting on. He said he had nothing to offer but blood, toil, sweat, and tears, and yet he offered so much more. Determination, faith in victory, honor, and pride. Hope also bore the traits of King George VI, of his wife and his 2 daughters. Calm determination of the royal family, which shared the suffering of Londoners and contributed to the establishment of national unity. There was hope with the belief in victory of your soldiers and your legendary calm of the British nation. De Gaulle was an officer in the French army who was soon to be stripped of his rank by the Pétain government. The rebel in London no longer had anything, and yet he still possessed everything. An unswerving faith in the victory of his country and in the ultimate victory of the Allies. And with de Gaulle in exile, de Gaulle had taken with him in his exile the French spirit. He arrived in London on the 17th of June, and he was immediately given help by Churchill. The royal family provided shelter to the man they recognized as the legitimate ambassador of France and French values. Your Royal Highness, the British monarchy thus became the refuge of the French Republic, and Britain decided to provide shelter to France at this moment. And this is where de Gaulle formed the first ranks of the French army that was to pursue the struggle. The soldiers of the shadows. This is where de Gaulle was able to call on the French to resist with the French soldiers in London, because 80 years ago to the day, on the 18th of June 1940, the United Kingdom provided France with its first weapon, which was a BBC microphone. The radio waves that conveyed the spirit of resistance of de Gaulle, which were born over the Channel, bearing that refusal to submit. De Gaulle was saying the same thing as Churchill, voicing his conviction that all was not lost, that everything had not ended with the Battle of France, because this was a world war. He stressed that France was not alone, that the British Empire was closing ranks, that soldiers from across the French Empire were ready to carry on the fight. And the call of the 18th of June was a call to pick up the sword and to bear French arms, calling on all men and women of goodwill to reject defeat and to lend meaning to history as it was to be embodied. And on that day, de Gaulle became the voice and breath of Free France. He raised the flame of French resistance higher than any beacon in order for this beacon shine across French soil. He was to bear aloft the destiny of France from London and thanks to London. The chiefs of staff of Free France were able to settle here in Carlton Gardens. French troops were able to train on British soil. The BBC opened its airwaves to French speakers, and this is what conveyed the spirit of French resistance. And it is from here, with faith and generosity, that the United Kingdom allowed the Free French to fly the flag of French resistance on British soil, and the spirit never to be quenched. And France was therefore no longer alone. The British government and Crown provided their support, as did the British people. The friends of Free French forces, with 60,000 members, generously gave money, food, clothes, and the general, as he walked around the British capital, was often greeted with cries of Vive la France and encouragement to continue the struggle. London and its inhabitants not only welcomed Free France, but they lent inspiration. Mayor. When the British sky was torn apart by the battle between the Luftwaffe and the RAF during the attacks of the Blitz, the self-sacrifice of Londoners drew admiration from all quarters. Britain was alone in resisting the full fury, the onslaught of the enemy, through the spirit of its people, which withheld the attack against all odds. Your nation knew this. It was the spearhead of the liberation of the world, and it had to remain standing. It had to resist. It built the strongest possible rampart against Nazi barbarism, which was fraternity. And the spirit was embodied in the words, keep calm and go on, embodying the calm bravery, the modest heroism of the British people. And this, for the Free French, was a supreme example which it took with it wherever the struggle took it, in Africa, in the French Empire, in Brazzaville, and then Algiers. But it was in London, the capital of the free world, London, which continued to resist. London was the cradle of Free France, and Big Ben rang on every hour the strength of the new forces of Free French. And the Free French and France have since then drawn inspiration for a universal destiny arising from the spirit of resistance, which commands that we never cease to act together to remain ourselves. I know how you cherish these values and the history, Your Royal Highness. The values of your mother, your father, your grandfather, grandmother, of a family, your family, and the British people who welcomed General de Gaulle and free France. We will continue to write this narrative, the tale of two cities, the tale of two countries, which has so many magnificent pages, which such poignant accounts where the capital of the United Kingdom was home away from home for free France, and the last bastion of hope when all seemed lost. And I wish to convey the deep gratitude of the French Republic to the City of London by awarding it exceptionally the Cross of the Legion of Honor. And it is to you, Your Royal Highness, in memory of our deep, eternal gratitude, that I wish to give this medal to you on behalf of the French people.